So here is our roadmap for today. 1. Mastering the right-of-way. 2. Navigating roundabouts safely. 3. Speed limits and traffic. 4. Signaling, passing, and turning. And finally 5. Railroad crossing safety.
All right, Section 1, Mastering the Right-of-Way. Okay, imagine pulling up to a classic four-way stop. The first rule is super specific. You need to come to a full, complete stop. I'm talking no rolling whatsoever. Then you've got to check all directions for cross traffic. Now, usually whoever stops first gets to go first. Simple enough. But what if you and your neighbor arrive at the exact same time? Well, there's a golden rule for that. If you're in doubt, yield to the driver on your right. But here is the really crucial part. You should never insist on taking your turn if it means risking a collision. Drive defensively because honestly, other drivers might not stop, even when it is totally your turn.
But remember, the right-of-way extends way beyond just dealing with other cars. You absolutely must yield to pedestrians in crosswalks, giving them a minimum clearance of 3 feet. You also have to stop for visually impaired individuals using white canes or guide dogs. Give them plenty of space until they're totally clear of the roadway. And emergency vehicles? When you hear a siren, immediately pull over as close as you can to the right edge of the road and stop. Oh, and keep an eye out for the Nebraska move over law. If you see stopped emergency or road assistance vehicles with flashing lights on a multi-lane highway, you are legally required to move over 1 lane. If you can't move over, you have to strictly reduce your speed. Breaking this law can actually hit you with some really severe fines, so definitely pay attention to that one.
Moving right along to Section 2, Navigating Roundabouts Safely.
Okay, I know roundabouts can look like a swirling vortex of chaos to a new driver, but they're actually brilliantly simple once you understand one core rule. Traffic always flows in one direction, counterclockwise around that center island. As you approach, your first job is just to slow down to the advisory speed and immediately yield to any pedestrians or bicyclists in those crosswalks. Then look to your left. You must yield to traffic approaching on your left that's already inside the circle. You only enter when there's a safe gap. And as you get ready to exit, just pop on that right turn signal and check those crosswalks one more time.
Now, things do get a tiny bit more complex when we add a second lane. Surviving a dual-lane roundabout requires some early planning. You've got to observe the signs and choose your proper lane before you enter the circle. Once you pick a lane, stay in it. No lane hopping. And here is a massive tip that I found totally fascinating. Large vehicles actually need so much space that they might use those raised truck aprons around the center island. So give them plenty of room, avoid driving right next to them, and literally never try to pass them while you're inside the circle.
Next up, Section 3, Speed Limits and Traffic.
If there is one mental cheat sheet you absolutely want to lock into your brain for exam day, it's this breakdown of maximum speed limits. Unless there are signs saying otherwise, you're expected to know these by heart. In business districts, you cap it at 20 miles per hour. In residential districts, where kids might be playing out in the street, it's 25 miles per hour. On non-state paved roadways, the limit is 55. And when you finally hit those wide-open rural interstate highways, you can cruise at up to 75 miles per hour. Seriously, memorize those numbers.
But look, speed isn't just about max limits. It's about adjusting to specific hazards. Speeding in school zones or active work zones, your fines are instantly doubled. It's a pretty stark warning. In work zones especially, unexpected changes in speed are a major cause of rear-end crashes. So just maintain a steady speed, obey the flaggers, and always, always be prepared to stop.
All right, Section 4, Signaling, Passing, and Turning.
Let's keep this one incredibly punchy. 100 feet. That is the strict legal minimum distance. You must activate your turn signal before making a turn, changing lanes, or pulling out of a parking space. Not 50 feet, and definitely not right as you start turning the steering wheel. 100 feet. Just commit that one to memory right now. And when you're actually making these moves, your mirrors are incredibly important, sure, but they don't show you everything. Before changing lanes, you physically have to check over your left or right shoulder to clear those blind spots. And when it comes to turning, you need to plan your geometry ahead of time. Get in the proper lane well in advance. If you're turning right, stay as close as practical to the right side of the road. And if there are double turning lanes, maintain your specific lane all the way through the intersection. Basically, don't drift.
Now, passing another vehicle requires some serious judgment. There are absolute do not pass zones that you need to respect. Never pass in a marked no passing zone, and absolutely never pass a stopped school bus when it has its flashing red lights on and stop arm extended.
You also need to notice the strict physical restrictions. No making a move within 100 feet of an intersection and no passing within 100 feet of a railroad crossing. And finally, if you're on a hill, a blind curve, or a bridge where your vision is obstructed, just wait. If you can't see what's coming, simply don't make the move.
Which brings us to our final topic, Section 5, Railroad Crossing Safety. Whenever you approach a crossing and see a lowered gate, flashing signals, or even just hear a train, you have to stop between 15 to 50 feet away from the nearest rail. Once you're stopped, make sure all the tracks are completely clear and that there's actually enough room for your car to fit completely on the other side before you try to proceed. And hey, for those of you learning on a manual transmission, this next part is so crucial. Do not shift gears while crossing the tracks. Miss shifting and stalling right there on the rails? Yeah, that is absolute nightmare fuel. Treating trains with extreme caution really just comes down to basic physics. In an emergency, your car can brake relatively quickly, right? Well, a train cannot. An average freight train traveling at 60 miles per hour needs a staggering 8,500 feet to come to a complete stop. That's over a mile and a half. So never, ever try to beat a train across the tracks, because even if it's a tie, you lose. Now, in a worst-case scenario where your vehicle actually does stall on the tracks, you need to get everyone out of the car immediately and run away from the tracks at an angle in the direction of the oncoming train. Then, start looking for the ENS sign. That stands for Emergency Notification System. It's a blue sign posted at literally every single highway rail crossing. Calling the 24/7 dispatch number on that sign and giving them the specific DOT location ID printed right there on it is your absolute first line of defense to stop train traffic. That is quite literally life-saving knowledge. And that brings us to the end of our journey today. We have mastered the right-of-way, navigated those crazy roundabouts, mapped out our speed limits, communicated our lane changes, and learned to respect the awesome power of the railroad. Remember, these rules aren't just for passing your teen driving exam. They're the shared foundation for keeping literally everyone safe out on the road. So, as you head into your practical test, keep this mental cheat sheet ready. Are you ready to take the wheel with confidence and drive defensively? I definitely think you are. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and hey, good luck out there.